All right, so we're going to continue on with page 20. This is the front suspension bag. We have all of this assembled as of now. So now we're going to continue on with the bell crank. So the bell crank is one of the items that I recommend that you replace with the aluminum bell crank that Traxxas offers. The other thing too is notice these bushings. If you can get ball bearings are really the way to go. You'll get much better steering. If you buy the aluminum bell crank, it already comes with ball bearings. All right, so I'm going to orient this, that would be forward, so I'm going to orient it that way. And once I do that, if you grab this arm, this one's going to go like this, right on here. So it'll go out and back. And then this one will go, here, let me see how this is oriented. This has to go this way, right like this. So if you look at this, place it like this, flip it, and it'll just seat right in there. But before you seat this, now that I got the orientation, I know how they go, we're going to go ahead and grab these spacers. So you're going to need 2 on each side, so you have a total of 4. Just drop 2 of them in there. And then ball bearings if you have ball bearings, if not, just do the bushings. So drop the bushings. Now I can go ahead and drop this part of the bell crank. And I can install the top bushings. And then you're going to need the 30mm screws with one of those little metal washers, and those will just go on top. And this is what holds everything. Should be a 2.5mm driver. Do not over tighten this, you can damage and break it easily. So as soon as you get to the end, just stop. And just stop. Now you could get, if you don't want to spend on the aluminum, you can get the 4-wheel drive or the VXL, which is the same as the 4-wheel drive. You can get that bell crank. It's plastic, it's more robust. The servo saver's built into it. It's a lot better than this. Then you can just get a regular servo horn. All right, now we need the brace. So we have this brace here. And here, let me just see. All right, so there's no difference between top and bottom. And that works out. And we're gonna need these screws right in here, and we're gonna need one of these little washers. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it this way. And that's gonna go on the innermost hole. Now, this is a Phillips screwdriver, so use a Phillips number 2. This is going to be the only time I believe that you will need a Phillips driver for this build. I hope. Don't know why. I mean, I think Phillips screws are just less expensive to manufacture, I believe. This might be why they still use them. Other than that, I have no idea why. Keep in mind, I strongly dislike Phillips and flatheads. I think hex screws are much better screws. All right, let's go ahead and place the washer. And there. All right. Once you get to the end, stop. Do not over tighten this. If you over tighten it, this will be too tight. It needs to move freely. So here, I'm actually going to back this one out a little. Check it, back out the other one. All right. Let me actually be the top. So let's back this. Oh, that's a lot better. Let's try the other one. Ah, perfect. All right. Pull out. There we go. So steering bell crank should move freely once done correctly. Now that we have this, we can go ahead and install the links. You don't have to install the links yet, but you may want to do it. So that's something to keep in mind. And you're going to be using these long links. So these are the longer links. It's the ones you have left over. These are the 8mm. Well, they're spaced out at 88mm. Now, remember to orient them correctly. And if you look at these, they look exactly the same. So this will go here, and this one will go on the other side. And these actually screw from the bottom up. I don't really have to do it now, actually. But let's see. It should be a 15. Let me just double check. 18. All right, so it's an 18. Grab an 18. I know I said 15 as I was grabbing an 18, but these are going to go, according to the picture, they will go from the bottom up, which means that they thread all the way. Go ahead and do this. All right, here we go. So I want these on the left, so that will go here. I can grab one of these. Say 15mm screw would have been just fine. That's to the left, perfect. And now this one has to go to the left. There we go, right in here. Now, if you go with the aluminum steering bell crank and then you eliminate the servo saver from the horn, you really want to go with the metal gears. Now, there's two options with the metal gears that you can go with. One of them is the high-speed gears. The other one's the high torque. It's the same number, just one of them has an X at the end. I think that's the high torque. I would go with the torque one because you're going to kill the motor really fast on the servo if you use the high speed. That motor is not the strongest thing in the world, so you will damage it quite fast. All right, good. So now we need the steering. Now really quick, this one is all right thread, so keep that in mind. So here, if you actually start moving this, this one or that one will move, whichever one has less friction. All right, good. So now we need the 14mm. All right, let's see. This one right here. All right, good stuff. And all right, now this one's not going to matter, but it's going to go in here and then it's going to go over here. So let's go ahead and drop this screw through. And it may not seem like it, but most of this truck's already complete. So we're actually looking pretty good. There it is. And so now for the servo. Now the servo. All right, so I want to drive this down from the bottom. And based on this, it's telling me to install it this way. All right, so this little spring section, according to the picture, this goes up. All right, that is on there. Now I'm going to use the nut, and the nut's going to hold everything in place. That's if I can grab onto it correctly. There you go. Perfect. There. All right. And there it is. So at this point, I can now go ahead and mount this onto the chassis if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and install the bumper just because I have this here. Actually, no. What I need is this. So I could screw this onto the chassis, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and install this here. So we'll do that. Now, if you were going onto an LCG, you would actually use all 3 holes. For this one, you only use the 2. If I recall correctly, the LCG kit comes with an extra screw, or the 3rd screw. Not really something that you're going to have an extra of. All right, now we can do this. And we can go ahead and install the bumper as well. It's just 4 screws. This just goes right in here. If you're going to install sway bars, don't put the spring in because the little plate goes between the springs. Here are the 4 screws for the front bumper. Now, I really don't see why one has the need to replace the front bumper unless you're going for aesthetics. Traxxas used to make, they might still make it, a Raptor version, and that has a completely different bumper. So if you're trying to go for that look, it actually looks pretty nice, then you would have to replace this. But if you're just bashing about, this one is good enough. I mean, it does the job. It's actually a great bumper. So there's really no such thing as a better bumper. If you replace it, it's really just for aesthetics. Or maybe the other one was less expensive than the stock one, which I doubt. But if you know of a really cool, durable bumper that's less expensive than stock, go ahead and put it in the comments. Now I'm jingling everywhere. There we go. And there it is. All right. Bumper is completely installed. So at this point, I can go ahead and just mount up the shocks. So I'm going to move these off to the side. Now I'm going to use all of these. All right, perfect. So these actually go over here. I could have done those, should have done those. Let me do those before the shocks. All right, so this is what I did not do. These longer screws will go in through here, so you have to thread them on the ear. I almost didn't link up the steering. I mean, it really doesn't matter if you do the shocks first and then the steering, it all works out. But this, you're gonna have to thread them all the way through and thread them from the bottom up. And then the link would just drop right in place, and then you would just use the nut on the other side. Right in here, let's go ahead and use this one. This is one of the other reasons why I like the hex screws. They're just better. You don't strip them as easily as you would a Phillips or a flathead. I mean, I would really hate building kits if they were all flathead screws. I'll be honest. Those are probably the worst screws, some of the worst screws. I can't think of a worse one, but just in case there's something even worse than that. But hex screws are great. I mean, Torx screws would work. I just don't see the point of using Torx. Seems hex would be easier to make. I could be wrong. There we go. So again, this is something you could use an electric screwdriver if you had one, or some other power tool. Just be careful not to overdo it. So once you get to the end, just stop. You don't need to snug this up or anything, just stop as soon as you get to the end, or else you will damage plastic. Here we go. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and do the shocks. I need to keep this on this other side. The shocks are just gonna go in the arm. I'm gonna go ahead and put them on the outer arm. For these, because I have the bumper, it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to do the arm first and then the shock tower. And, all right, kind of went by. So if you look at that, you need to sort of line it up. Here we go. See if I can still have it in camera, hold it correctly. Oh, nope. Did not. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to set this here. I'm actually trying to push it in, but I'm going to try to pretend I'm driving it to see if it falls in place. And it is falling in place. Maybe there's a little piece of plastic there it needs to thread to. That's a possibility. Around the front. All right. Let's go ahead and just do the other one. See, that one actually fell through. Just like it's supposed to. All right. Almost ready. So now I can do the top. And there's no adjustment on top. On these, you only get 2 adjustments on the bottom. If you did get a different shock tower, for example, the Proline True Track or Pro Track, forget the name. That one has more adjustments on the top. Now keep in mind that it is a centimeter on each side wider. So that means that if you're using these stock arms with that shock tower, you may need shorter shock shafts. Or you can limit the travel by opening them up and putting a limiter inside. Or else your truck's just going to ride too high. There we go. Although for jumping, it would be, that's actually a very good tower if you're going to be doing a lot of jumps. Almost finished. There we go. So that is the front end. The front end is complete. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not, and go ahead and comment below if you have any questions, comments, difficulties. Until next time.
What? Oh, my hair! My tongue! My room!